Hello and welcome to another Java video tutorial. This is part 3 in our series of building a text-based Java menu system. And in this video we're going to leverage an awful lot of the content that we've covered in more recent videos. So whenever that happens, I'll make sure to put a link up here somewhere, and also there'll be a link to the related video in the description below. So let's dive straight in and start changing our menu system around and making it better. Okay, so the last time we developed the menu system we had a class called menu2, and before we go and start changing the code, what I'd like to do is just run that so we can see what the program did and where we left off. So I'll go and actually compile this first. So javac menu2 was the name of the program that we developed in the previous installment of this series. So I'll compile that and run it. Menu2. So this was the menu system that we had. You can see it's a simple menu system. It just allowed us to select various different items off the menu, and one of the things that we pointed out that was a bit of a problem with this menu system in the previous installment was that if I type in some kind of invalid input, for example if I type in A and I press enter, it's going to cause a runtime error, and obviously that's bad. So we need to do some user validation, and in a previous video we developed something called a keyboard class, and that keyboard class had inbuilt user input validation, and that's one of the first things that we're going to do with this video. We're going to use the keyboard class to provide some user input validation. So let's go and do that. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to basically copy all of the code from menu version 2. So I'm going to copy all of that and I'm going to create a new file. So I'm going to create a new tab here, and this is going to be my menu tree file. So I'm going to copy all of the code in here and I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this menu tree.java. Okay, so now I have a file called menu tree, and because the file is called menu tree, of course I need to change the name of the class to menu tree. Okay, I'm going to save that, and the first thing that I'm going to do is just compile this to make sure that it works. So I'm going to go out to my command window. I'll just clear that off and I'll do a compile of menu tree.java. Yeah, that works. Let's just run it and make sure everything works. Menu tree, and we get our menu again. So I haven't changed any code. I've just created a kind of copy of menu2.java that we worked on previously and kind of renamed it to menu tree. Okay, so what we need to do now is, let's exit out of that. What we need to do now is we need to integrate the user input validation that we created in our keyboard class. Okay, so I'm going to put a link on the screen now to the video that covers the keyboard class and user input validation, and remember also there'll be a link down below. So this keyboard class that we developed had a number of different methods in it for doing user input validation. Go and have a look at that video if you don't understand how the keyboard class works. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the methods from the keyboard class that allowed us to read in an integer value and also have a range of valid values. So it's this read integer method from the keyboard class that takes in 4 parameters. It takes in a prompt, it takes in an error message, and then an integer high and low that allows us to specify a range of values that we want the user to input. And that's the one I'm going to use. So that was in the keyboard class. Now what I've done is I've copied that keyboard.java class into the same folder as my menutree.java. So it's all in there together in the same folder, which means when I want to use a keyboard object, I can just declare one, and because it's all in the same folder, Java will know where to look for it and everything should work okay. So I'm going to go back to my menu tree.java program. And first of all, before I go changing any code, let's look and see where exactly we're taking user input. So if we go into the main part of the menu system, we'll see that right here, just before the loop, we take some user input. Okay, so right there, just before the loop begins, we grab the choice from the user. And then in the loop itself, we also, once we've displayed the menu in the loop, we also grab the choice from the user again, because if we don't do that, we'll stick with the same choice and the loop will just keep on going around and round with the same choice. So there are two parts in the code that I need to change it over to using the keyboard read integer with the user input validation. Okay, so firstly what I need to do is I need to actually create a keyboard object that I can use. So I'm going to go up to the main top of the main method where I've declared all my variables. I'm going to declare a keyboard object. So I'm going to say create a keyboard object for input validation. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, I'm just going to say keyboard, that's the name of the keyboard class, and I'm just going to call my object key, and I'm going to say equals new keyboard. It doesn't take any parameters. That line of code will create a new keyboard object for me. Okay, so that's it there, creating a new keyboard object. Now I can call the methods that I want on that keyboard object, and the one that I want to call is the one that takes 4 parameters. It takes a prompt, it takes an error message, and then it takes the low and the high range of values that I want to check for user input validation. So all I need to do is, where I'm getting the choice from the user, I can get rid of this in.nextInt, which was using the scanner class. So I can say choice equals, and then I can say key.read integer was the name of the method. The first parameter was the prompt, so I can just say enter choice. And then the second parameter was the error message. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this error message pretty simple. I'm going to say error invalid input. I'm going to have to make this text a little bit smaller just so you can see what I'm doing here. And then what I want to do next is I want to give a range of low, so 1 would be the first option that the user can enter, and then a high input, which would be the last input that the user can enter, which should be the exit. So the first number that I'm going to put in here is 1, because that's always going to be the first option on the menu. And then the second parameter, well, the last parameter that I'm going to enter is this exit variable that I had here. So if you can remember back, we set this variable called exit, which was an integer value, to the last option on the menu using this options array. Okay, so this exit basically is always going to be the last option on the menu. So the range of values that I want to enter is between 1 and the last option on the menu. So I'm going to put this exit variable in here, and that's basically it. So I create the new keyboard object, and then the method that I want to be able to use is the read integer method here, the one that takes 4 parameters. Okay, so I'm making a call to that here, and I'm giving it a prompt. I'm giving it an error message if the user inputs the wrong thing, and then the high and the low and high range of values that I want to specify. Okay, So I need to do that there, and I also need to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to copy that line of code and I'm going to bring it down inside of the loop that I have in my main method. And where I'm getting the choice from the user here, I'm just going to copy that in there as well. So I've now replaced that old user input with this new version of user input that uses the keyboard class that I developed. Now there's one other thing that I need to change. If you notice where I'm using this read integer method on the keyboard class, I'm actually specifying a prompt for the user. So because that's built into the read integer method in the keyboard class, if I have a look up in my display method up here, you'll see that I'm also prompting the user for a choice when I display the menu. So I don't need that there. I can get rid of that because I'm doing it somewhere else. So I'm going to get rid of that from the display method. Okay, and that's pretty much it for user input validation. Because I've already developed that code as part of the keyboard class, I can just reuse it now, and it's very useful because, you know, I don't have to write any extra code. I can just use it. Okay, let's save that, and I'm going to try and compile it. So actually, let's clear our window over here. So I can say Java C menu tree .java. Okay, that compiles. Let's test it. Java menu tree. Oh, I've run Java menu 2 by mistake. Okay, let's exit out of that. Let's clear that and let's run Java menu tree .java. Oh, okay. So Java menu. I'm trying to run it and I'm typing in .java. We'll get this right. We'll get there. Okay, Java menu tree. Okay, finally. Right, so now this is our new menu system with the user input validation. So let's test it out. Well, let's enter in A and see, does the program crash? No, so far so good. We get our error message. Okay, pretty good. Let's enter in -1, let's say. Invalid input, okay, because -1 isn't on the menu, right? We get an error message, invalid input. Let's try and enter in 20. Okay, enter in 20. No, that doesn't work either. Error, invalid input. Let's try 1. Yes, it works. We get our cappuccino coffee 250 menu redisplays. Let's just type in 4, for example. Yes, again, look, it works. Americano coffee 250. So what you can see here is that now our user input is validated. Not only have we stopped the runtime error if the user types in invalid characters, like I can type in any old garbage on the keyboard and hit enter and it's not going to crash the program. If I enter in a valid input, then the program will work as expected. If I enter in a different range, like maybe -1, you can see that I get my error message. So now I'm guaranteed that my user input is a number between 1 and 5, a number between that low range of 1 and whatever my exit option is. And now I'm guaranteed that because my keyboard class will do that user input validation for me. So that's really good. As a first step, that's a much improved menu system now with the user input validation. Okay, let's exit out of our menu system. What's the next thing that we're going to do? Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is this is a pretty big change. Okay, so bear with me. The next thing that I want to do is, I'm not really happy about how my menu system is kind of put together. It really depends on these 3 arrays that we have here. If you can remember from before, we had these 3 arrays. I had an array with the options, which was the numbers that appear on the menu. Then I had another array, which was the actual items that appear on the menu, including the exit. So the exit was mixed in with the actual coffee items that were on the menu. And then I had this other array, this prices array, and the prices for the coffees were in there, but that was a different size to this array, this menu items array, because exit didn't have a price. So it was messy, okay? There's a much better way we can do this. We can definitely improve on what we have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class called MenuItem. And this class is basically going to represent an item on my menu. And I'm going to take the data that's stored in all these different arrays and I'm going to try and encapsulate that inside of this MenuItem class. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Up above where I have declared my menu tree class, I'm going to create another class called MenuItem. Okay, now you can create this MenuItem class in a separate file, okay, and you probably should go and do that if you're following along with this exercise. Create a separate file called menuitem.java and put this class in there. I'm not using a separate file because it would mean that I have to keep on moving back and forward between different files. I'm just going to put this MenuItem class at the top of this file to kind of save me from doing that. Okay, so what do I want to capture about a MenuItem? Well, definitely a MenuItem is going to have a name, isn't it? It's going to, you know, have like a piece of text that represents what it is. So I'm going to have private string and I'm just going to call it name. And what else do we have? Well, a MenuItem is also going to have a price, right? So I'm going to have private double, make this a little bit bigger while I'm typing this part in. So private double, and I'm going to call that price. Okay. Now, what else do I need? Well, I'm going to need a constructor. So I'm going to have MenuItem, and the first parameter that is going to take is going to be a string name. And the second parameter that it's going to take is going to be double price. And I need to set those now in my constructor. So I'm going to set the data member name, this.name, equal to the parameter name. And I'm going to set the data member price equal to my formal parameter price. And that's the constructor. Okay, so what else do I need? Well, I need to be able to get at those private data members, string name and double price. So I'm going to create two get methods. I'm going to create get name and get price. So these are going to be public methods, and the first one's going to return a string and it's going to be called get name. I'm going to do these on one line just to kind of keep it nice and compact. That's going to return the name, and then the next one's going to be public double get price, and that's going to return the price. Okay, so now I've got two public methods in the MenuItem class, and they're going to allow me to get access to the data members, the private data members that are inside that class. So if you have a look, this is, you know, there's probably other stuff that we could add here, but I'm trying to keep things really compact and simple. So this MenuItem class is really small. It's nice and compact and doesn't have very much. I'm only adding the things into it that I really need. Okay, all right, so that's that. So now I have a class that kind of represents or encapsulates a MenuItem. It's going to have a piece of text that represents what it is, and it's going to have a price. Okay, so far so good. Now let's go back down to where we have our arrays of different things down here. Okay, all right, so I have these arrays here at the moment, 3 different arrays that kind of make up the menu. That's not great. Okay, the other thing that's not great about this is that in Java, arrays are fixed sizes, okay? So I need to have a fixed size array, but like, what if I want to have less items on my menu or more items on my menu? Having a fixed size array doesn't create that flexibility that I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these arrays. Okay, I won't delete the code just for the moment. But what I want to do is I want to actually replace these arrays with an array list. Now again, we've covered array lists before, so there'll be something on the screen here that you can click on, that you can go and have a look at my array list video. And again, there'll be a link in the description below. Okay, so I'm going to create an array list. And my array list is going to contain menu item objects. So I'm going to specify that in the angle brackets that it's going to be an array list of menu item. And I'm going to give my array list a name. And let's give it the same name as we used before. So we use menu items. So I'm going to call this menu items as well. And that's going to be equal to a new array list of menu item. And I need my roundy brackets there and semicolon. So I'm going to create an array list. So rather than have these three separate arrays that contain the menu data, I'm going to have one array list that contains menu item objects, and that's going to be my menu. Okay, so how do I add things to this array list? Well, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to say menu items dot add. Okay, so I'm going to add a menu item object into the array list. The array list is going to contain menu item objects, not just one. It can contain as many as I want. Remember, it's a dynamic collection of objects, so I can add objects to it, I can take objects away from it, I can add as many as I want. Now the add method of this array list, well, what is it going to add to the array list? It's going to add a new menu item object. Okay, so in this add method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new menu item. And what parameters does the menu item take to create a menu item? Well, let's look at the menu item class. Let's go back up and have a look at the menu item class. And the constructor in the menu item class takes a name and it takes a price. So to create a menu item object, I need to give it a name and I need to give it a price. Okay, let's do that. So I'll go back down here where I'm creating my array list. So new menu item. So let's give this first one a name. Okay, let's do the same as we did in our old arrays for menu version 2. So I'm going to copy these down. I'm going to copy the cappuccino down. Okay, and the cappuccino had a price, and the price was $2.50. So I'll copy that in there as the second parameter. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this line. So I need, how many do I need? I need 4. Cappuccino, latte, espresso, americano. So I need 4 of these. So I'm just going to copy this line down 3 other times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So the next one is latte. I'll copy that one in there. And the price of a latte was €3. So I'll copy that in as the price for that. Next one was espresso. I'll copy that in here. And the price of the espresso was €2. So I'll copy that in as the price for the espresso. Then you had americano. Copy that in there for the last menu item. And the price of the americano was $2.50. So I'll copy that in there. In fact, it's there. It's already $2.50. Okay. So now I have created an array list of menu items. When that line of code executes, that's going to be a blank array list of menu items. And then I'm adding the menu items that I need, the new objects, into that array list. Okay, because that array list is going to contain objects. It's going to contain menu item objects. So every time I call the add method, I'm creating a new menu item and I'm putting it into the array list. I'm populating the array list. Okay, so that's good. Guess what? Now I don't need these anymore. I can get rid of them. Okay, get rid of those 3 arrays that I had there. Boom, gone. Okay, now that's much neater, isn't it? Look, one array list to contain the menu data. All right, and there it is there. Okay, now I need to make another change because my display method needed those arrays to display the menu. So the display method, let's just have a quick look at that. The display method is here, okay, and you can see that the display method takes these 3 parameters. It depended on those 3 arrays to display the menu. But it's not going to do that anymore. It's not going to use those 3 arrays anymore. It's going to use my array list. So I'm going to change the display menu method to take my array list. There's going to be an array list of menu item, and I'm going to call this items. So the parameter that this display menu now takes is an array list of menu items, and the name of the parameter is items. Okay, let's look at what we need to change in the display menu method. Okay, we have some output here, some standard output, just displaying the word menu and a little line underneath it. And then we have a loop. This loop is going to need to change because we want to use our array list. Okay, so let's first of all have a look at the loop. So we have I equal to 0, and that's okay. I less than opt.length. Well, that was using the old options array. We need to change that because I want to iterate over or iterate through the array list. So it's not going to be opt.length. What we're going to use here instead is items.size. Okay, because items is the name of the array list parameter that I'm passing over. So I'm going to say I less than items.size. I++, it's fine, I can leave that there. Okay, now what do I want to do here? Well, what I want to do here in this loop is I want to print out the array items, right? I want to print out each item in the menu. So, okay, how am I going to do that? Well, let's think about it. What I need to do, I need to, if I go back over here, you can see what I need to do. I need to print out a number. Okay, so I need to print out a number first, then I need to print out the item, and then I need to print out the price. Okay, so 3 things. I need to print out the number, the item, and the price. Okay, and if we have a look here, we have a system out.printf that's doing that. It's printing out the number with a %d. It's printing out the item with a %s. Then I have a tab character that kind of spaces things out a little bit for me. And then I print out the price formatted to 2 decimal places. Okay, so I need to grab this information from the array list in order to do that. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, remember, I'm going to be passing over an array list of items to this display menu. So this items array list, I need to grab the appropriate item from that array list. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say menu item, and I'm going to call this item equals, and I'm going to say items dot get I. Okay, let's take a step back for a minute and let's explain this. So this array list that I'm passing over to the display menu is going to be populated with items. Okay, and what I need to do in the loop here is I need to get that particular item from the array list because I'm iterating over the array list and printing them out. So let's grab the item first of all from the array list, and the way we do that is we use the get method. Okay, the get method of the array list allows us to pass over an index, and it will get the object at that index. And what is the object that we're getting? Well, it's a menu item object. Okay, so this line of code is going to get the menu item object at that index. First time around the loop, it's going to be the 0th index. Second time around the loop, it'll be the next index and the next index and the next index and so on. So that gets the first kind of menu item, if you like, menu item object from the array list. Okay, I've got that now. So now what I can do is I can print out where I have items I, that was the array that contained the names of the items. Now I can now replace that with item.getName. Okay, because I have this menu item object that is coming from the array list, I can now replace that part of the code with item.getName, and for the price I can say item.getPrice. Just to make that code a little bit smaller. Okay, now what about, so that's the item name and it's the price taken care of. What about this number here? Well, I had an array before with those numbers in it for the menu items. I've gotten rid of that now. The display menu just takes this array list as a parameter. But what I can do is, I don't need another array for those numbers, because if I have a look at my loop, you can see that I've got a loop index variable I, and that starts at 0. Okay, and that's going to loop around for every menu item that I have in my array list. So I can use that index I, or I can use that loop counter I to print the number. Okay, now it's 0. I don't want my first menu item to be 0, so all I need to do is take I and increment it by 1. So rather than having this ops I array that contain those numbers, all I need to replace that with is I plus 1. Okay, so now I have it. I have the number that gets printed. That's coming from our loop counter variable I, except I just increment it by 1. Okay, the name on the menu is coming from my menu item that I get here from the array list, and I'm calling item.getName to print the item name. The price on the menu is coming from my menu item object in my array list, and to get the price I say item.getPrice. And I've just spotted a syntax error there. I'm missing my brackets for my item price method call. Okay, and that's it. That's all I need to do at the moment in there. Okay, the other little thing that I need to do is the exit option, right? How am I going to display an exit option? Well, every menu is going to have an exit option, right? And the exit option is usually the last item on the menu. So this loop is going to look after printing out the coffee items. So these items here are going to be printed by the loop. This last exit option, well, all I have to do is just display that. Okay, that's, you know, this is just text that represents the menu. So this exit option here, all I have to do is just make sure that the last item on my list is an exit option. So after the loop finishes, here you can see this is where we're printing out the exit, right? Okay, so at the moment I'm using again this options array and the items array because that had the exit option in it, which is nasty. That's a horrible way to do it. So what I want to do is I want to print out the exit option. Now how do I get the right number for the exit option? Well, my array list is going to have a certain size, isn't it? There's, at the moment, I think there's 4 items in my array list, but the size of the array list is going to allow me to set the exit option number, because all I need to do is I need to say items.size. That's going to give me the amount of items that are in my array list, so that's like 1 to 4 there. Okay, so if I say item size plus 1, that will give me 1 more than the amount of items that are in the array list, and that's going to be the exit option number. That's all I need to do. Just print out items.size plus 1. Now I'm always going to call it exit, so in fact I don't need this second piece of data here in that output. I can get rid of that, and I'm just going to hard code in the word exit into here. Okay, so now to print the exit, what you can see over here, well, let's have a look at the menu. On the menu, it's just a number, okay, the number 5, and then the word exit. So how am I going to do that now is I'm going to print out the number, Okay, the %d there is the number. Where's the number coming from? It's items.size plus 1. The size of the array list plus 1. And then I'm just going to hard code the word exit. So that's all I'm going to do there. And that's all the changes I need to make to the display menu method. I just need to go now and change where I'm actually calling that. Okay, so let's go down and have a look at where are we displaying the menu. Okay, so we display it here before the loop. So I can say display menu, get rid of those 3 parameters, and then I just need to pass over my menu items array list there. And there's one more place that happens, which is down in the loop body down here. So I can just copy that down there as well. Okay, and there's one other thing that I need to change up here that I actually just forgot about. This exit option. Okay, exit. Right, that was originally set using this options array. We don't have that anymore. So the exit option now is going to be equal to, it's going to be equal to menu items, my array list dot size. Okay, so the dot size, again, remember, is going to give me how many items are in my array list, which is 4 at the moment, as you can see. But the exit needs to be 1 more. So it's menu items dot size plus 1. Okay. All right. What other changes do I need to make? Okay, there's another change that I need to make, because if you look down in the loop body down here, this conditional block in the loop body, well, that uses the options array. There it is there. Look, let's make it a little bit bigger so you can see this. That uses that old options array that I had, and it also uses the menu items array and the prices array. So I've got some changes that I need to make here. These old arrays that I was using to contain the menu data is sprinkled through this conditional block that I have here. So how am I going to change this? Well, if we look at what that conditional block is doing, all it's doing is printing the name of the coffee and the price, okay? That's all that it does. It just prints the name of the coffee and the price. So based on the choice that the user makes, it does a system output, and that's all it does. I can simplify this conditional block an awful lot by making a method that will do that job for me. Okay, so everything is going to be based on the user choice. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically get rid of all of this conditional block. Okay, just wipe it out. It's gone. Boom. Okay, no more conditional block. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that conditional block with a method, and the method is going to be called complete transaction. So the way I'm going to do this, I'll actually make the call to the method first, and then we'll go and we'll write it. So this method is going to be called complete transaction, and it's going to take 2 parameters. It's going to take the choice that the user made. Okay, so the choice, right, from the loop and from the input, the user input, that choice, that number choice that the user made, it's going to be its first parameter. And then I'm going to pass over my array list menu items. Okay, so it's going to take the choice, and then I'm going to pass over my array list menu items. Okay, that's much cleaner, isn't it? Look, no more conditional block. This is one call to a method, and I'm going to replace all of that conditional block with this call. Okay, this complete transactions. I have to go and write that method now. So actually, I'm just going to copy that line of code, and just above my main method now, I'm going to make a new method called public static. Has to be static because I'm calling it from the main method. So public static void, it's not going to return anything, and it's going to take 2 parameters. Choice is going to be an int, and menu items is going to be an array list of menu item. Okay. So it's going to be an array list of menu item, just like I had before. Oh, I need a capital I there for item. So an array list of menu item, and I'm going to call that parameter items. Okay, so this complete transaction then, what's that going to do? Well, all I want to do is just print out some message to say, you know, here's your coffee worth whatever price you paid for it. So I'd kind of like to just do some output here. Okay, so the first thing that I need to know is, well, which menu item did the user select? Which coffee did they select? Well, that's going to be stored in this choice variable here, this choice parameter. So I have the array list and I have this choice. So I need to get the proper menu item from the array list based on the user choice. So this is the way I'm going to do this. I'm going to have menu item. This is just a local variable, menu item, and I'm going to call that item, and that's going to be equal to items.get. Now I need to specify an index here. I need to get the proper menu item from the array list. So how do I know which one to pick? How do I know which object in that array list I need? Well, I have this choice, right? This choice is the user choice. If they typed in 1, for example, that's a cappuccino. If they type in 2, that's a latte. If they type in 3, that's an espresso. But an array list is 0 based, okay? Just like a normal array in Java, an array list, its indexes start at 0. My menu numbers start at 1, okay? So cappuccino is the 0th position in my array list, but the number on the menu is 1. The user typed in 1. So all I have to do is use choice -1 as my index into the array list. And now I have the proper menu item object that I need to display. And then I can just output that. I can say system.out. And again, I'll use a printf, and I can say, here is your %s for the coffee name. Here is your whatever coffee worth %.2f for the price. Okay, and then I can just print it out. I can just say, well, remember, I'm after grabbing that object from the array list, and it's called item. So I can just say item.getName and item.getPrice. So item.getName is going to get the name of the object, and item.price is going to get the price of the object. And the output is just going to be, here is your, for example, cappuccino coffee worth $2.50, and then I need a new line in there as well, so I'll put in a \n, and that's pretty much it. So that method called complete transaction is basically going to replace that whole big conditional block that I had. And if you have a look at our loop now, well, look, there's not an awful lot of code in that loop. We're really minimizing all the code that we're after having to write, and things are much nicer now. We've got this array list that contains menu items. We wrote a class up here for menu item to encapsulate what a menu item is. You know, we changed their display method. We've now got this new complete transaction method, and we changed the exit option here to use the size of the array list, and we also changed where we call the display methods as well. We now just pass over our array list to those, and then we've now got this complete transaction method, which is going to replace the whole big conditional block that we had. So that's quite a lot of changes there. We've kind of gone through those pretty quickly, but let's save that and see does it compile. Okay. All right, let's clear the window and let's do a compile Java C menu tree.java. Oh, we've got loads of errors. Okay, let's have a look and see, can we work through these? Oh, array list. Okay, I'm using an array list, so I didn't import that. I need to make sure that I import java.util.ArrayList. Okay, let's save that and let's see that that fixed those errors. Java C menu tree.java. Yes, that fixed them. It was all just because I didn't import the array list from the Java util package. Okay, so that compiled. Let's see what happens when we run it. Java menu tree, and hopefully a menu appears. Absolutely brilliant. Look, we've got a menu. Okay, so look, we've still got each number that appears. Okay, so remember, the number that appears in the menu is coming from our loop code. It's coming from the loop counter variable I. We're just incrementing that. We're just adding one onto that to get the numbers here. This is coming from our array list, and we're using item.getName to print that. And then the prices are coming from our array list as well, and we're using item.getPrice to do that as well. Let's just check to see, does it work? Let's check to see, does the transaction bit work? This bit down here in the while loop, in our main loop. Let's see, does this transaction code work? You know, where we're calling complete transaction. So that should make a call to this method here, this complete transaction method here, and it should print out the coffee that we've selected. Okay, let's test it out. Let's choose option 1. Option 1, yes, it's working. Here is your cappuccino coffee worth $2.50. Let's check tree. Tree is an espresso. Here is your espresso coffee worth €2. So all that seems to be working, and of course our validation is still working. Let's type in -1. Okay, no, yeah, we're still validating that. Let's type in A, and that's still okay. And let's type in 5 and make sure that the program exits and that that part of it is working. Yes, it works. Okay, so one thing that we've done here by using the array list is we've made the program much more flexible. We've gotten rid of those tree arrays, you know, where we were dealing with tree arrays. Now we only have to deal with one. As a kind of side effect of that, our whole conditional block has now disappeared, and we've replaced the actual kind of activity of what happens with a single method called complete transaction. That's much nicer. And of course we've added this nice little compact menu item class to encapsulate what a menu item is. And it is much more flexible, because as you can see, what I'm going to do here now is I'm just going to add in a new menu item. So I'll just copy a line of code here, and I'll add in another menu item. Let's say I'll add in, what will I add in? I will add in a flat white coffee, and I'll make that $2.75. Okay, and I'll save that. Let's recompile. Let's clear the window over here first. So let's recompile Java C. Oh, let's spell Java C correctly. Java C menu tree.java. And let's run it. So we should see this new menu item appear now. And Java menu tree. And indeed we do. Look, we get an option 5 now is flat white, and option 6 is exit. So you see our loop in the display menu, our loop has looked after printing the coffee bits of the menu, and then after the loop, this bit here just looks after printing the exit. And of course the exit doesn't have a price or anything like that, so it's kind of like a special menu item anyway, so we don't need to do that in the loop. You know, we can select number 5 now, and our complete transaction method works because it's getting the choice on the array list and printing the appropriate information out. So it says here's your flat white coffee worth $2.75, and let's just check to see those our exit option work. Let's press 6 and we type enter, and again we exit from the menu and we get our little goodbye message. Okay, so we've made our menu system more flexible again by using an array list to store the menu items instead of those clunky tree arrays, and that has had kind of an impact on other parts of the program as well. But I think you will agree that it's much more simple now. It's actually a simpler program than the previous one, and it's by and large it's more flexible as well. So that allowed us to kind of bring in some of the other things that we've learned in recent videos as well, and the links to those videos, as I said, will be in the description below, and as I've mentioned them throughout this video, I'll try and put in some links up above as well as we went through this. So that's really the end of our little series of videos on creating a text-based menu in Java. I hope you found it useful. As always, if you did find it useful, please subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments down below if you've got some feedback for me on what I've covered in this video and in the previous videos as well. Hit the notification bell, give the video a thumbs up, let me know that the content is useful to you. And once again, thanks for watching the video. Stay tuned to the channel, and I'll see you next time.